Merry Christmas to all of you guys, and thank you so much for 500 subscribers. This is my subscriber special and the Christmas special, so this is gonna be lit. This is what if Deku had the string fruit, and like always, subscribe because in every single video, I try to go even further beyond. Now, the powers and weaknesses of this fruit is whatever, the strings are razor sharp and thin. They can be used to attach to anything, including clouds, to swing and move. They can attack their target's spine to control their body besides their head, so their head can still talk and communicate. He can also use it to make clones of people with full color, or himself. And he can use the threads inside of himself to stitch all the wounds. And that's kind of OP, but no one talks about that. And I've searched all around the internet for the weaknesses, and sadly there are none. So take it or leave it. Now let's begin with the story. So originally, Deku's family would be a band of pro heroes, and they were at the very top of their profession. Deku's father was a pro flame hero, and his mom was a telekinesis hero. Deku's father and mother always had, they had another son that will play a very big part in this story, and his son's name can be whatever you choose it to be. Just comment down below what you think his name should be. Growing up, Deku was always shown with the gifts and love, especially on this day that was his birthday, December 25th. This is the day Deku was born, and this was the day everything would change for him. Once he got his quirk, well, so he thought. This day, when he awoke, he ran down to the stairs, excited. Same with his brother, and they would have looked at the tree, and there was seemingly nothing. For the first time ever, Deku would turn his head and point to the tree's direction, and his brother would do the same expression, also shocked. And a moment later, their dad would walk down from the stairs and tell them Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday, Izuku. Deku would turn around and look at his dad, and his dad would start to laugh and tell him that they had a gift, but it wasn't what they expected. You see, Deku's father and mother, due to their superhero statuses, were never around, and that really didn't bother the boys, but the mother and father wanted to spend more time with them. Deku would call his mother from up the stairs and tell him what's going on, and the parents would start to explain that they decided that they should retire from being pro heroes and move to a different country to restart their lives. I'm saying a lot, I'm so sorry. And they would move to somewhere that they weren't really known. Because of their hero statuses, they were, a little bit hated. And due to poor circumstances, they wouldn't have much money, so that didn't bother the younger the younger boy. But Deku was a little bit unraveled because new place, no money. How am I gonna buy Popeye's chicken? Made the connection. So after moving, they would be loved by the neighbors and etc. because they didn't know their real identity, but they were pretty nice people. And this is where things get interesting. After living there for a year, things started to change for Deku and his family. Due to having little money, his mother cannot afford to pay for her pills, and she came down with an illness, and this would be the worst day for her because she might die today from this illness, or later this week, they do not know. It was Deku's birthday yet again, and following, more specifically, his neighbors, they hated heroes, and they found out about Deku's backstory. So this is where the action starts. At 7 p.m., Deku's dad and his mother heard a knock on the door from their room, and his dad would kiss her, say, "Take some rest, honey, I'll check who it is." They would go down, and before Deku's Hisashi can even touch the door would fly open, and behind him was an absurd amount of 7 villains, and storming into his house with 8 civilians following them, yelling at Hisashi and all the things that heroes have done to their families. As the villains charged at him, one with an enhancement quirk and picked up a chair and threw it at Hisashi. As he dodged, he released a fire breath, almost like a fire jutsu, burning the villain, and he would scream in pain, but charging with another villain and civilian with a torch. Hisashi's would charge at them as well, and one of the villains would shoot ice from their fingers, almost hitting him, but he used his fire breath to melt the ice. Going towards him, the civilians charged even faster and in a more swarm, swinging their torches as if they were weapons. Hisashi punched the closest villain in the jaw and knocked them out, and the villain with the enhancement quirk, yeah, they were both dead. The enhancement quirk and the ice quirk, yeah, they were pretty much dead. And any other villains that tried to get close to them would be burned to a crisp. Out of the corner, Deku and his brother, who were both knocked out, were being held by a villain, and they would be threatening it to Hisashi. Hisashi, that's his name? I wonder how we've never seen this man Hisashi ever in his whole entire story. It's crazy. They would be threatening to kill them, and Hisashi's eyes would widen, and he would look at his sons in horror, thinking they were dead because they were pretty beaten up. Like straight up, they were beaten up, like nothing you can do about it. He would get angry and let out a fire breath at the villain, and it would burn his arms, making him let go of Deku and his brother. Hisashi would run at them, but the villain would make a small force field around Hisashi, making it smaller and smaller, crushing Hisashi. He could not break through it, even, with big intents, and he would yell at the sky. At this noise, Deku would barely be awake, opening his eyes and look at the remaining villains beating up his dad, and his dad that tried to fight back and hold back tears. He would look at Deku, seeing that he's awake, and yell at Deku to run. "Run, Izuku! Run!" he yelled. Deku cried and grabbed his brother, and they ran as Hisashi instructed, and they would try to get his mom, but there was no time. Deku, out of energy, would collapse, and his brother, limping beside him, started to wake up slowly. Carrying him, Deku and his brother would look back and see that the villains were burning their house, and they were cheering. At this moment, Inku woke up on her deathbed with flames around her. She would scream as the whole house burned to ashes, and Deku's brother and him would scream, and they swore vengeance upon all villains. They would shit. Let's just take a moment. Even if this is a what if, let's take a moment of silence. Alright, we're done. Over 2 years, him and his brother would have been wandering around the forest, and Deku would find a strange fruit, the Ito no Mi, and he would have eaten it and became a devil fruit user. No dramatic story over it, just he found it, he ate it, thought it was food, it tasted awful, but next day, nigga Spider-Man. Straight up. And while wandering around, him and his brother, which still doesn't have a name, they would have been found by an orphanage and taken in with zero knowledge of who they were. Deku and his brother would have changed their last name to Flamingo just so they could hide their true identities. Deku and his brother, with vengeance on their minds, would always be training, with Deku trying to increase his Ito no Mi abilities, being able to use it for mobility, and even able to make 3 clones perfectly of himself with, razor sharp strings that can attack. And his brother had a power inherited from his mother's side, a little bit mutated though, or stronger, you could say. He could levitate heavy objects and increase the amount of pressure or gravity on that object. They would both be enrolled in the same school in Bakugo, and the three boys would have, somehow became friends. They would have hated each other at first, but after their similar drive to get stronger was found out, they accepted each other and worked to become stronger together. Deku was outgoing and blunt, same with Bakugo, but his younger brother was more quiet and observant, which made people ask if they're really brothers. Deku's brother and Bakugo would have come home from Popeyes, which Deku called them stupid for because they didn't have time for that, or they were going to be late to class. And they would continue the conversation, and the teacher would have came in and told them all to be quiet and asked them what they wanted to be in their life, and everything would go as the original, with Bakugo still saying that he's better than Deku and his brother, which was obviously a joke. But they all had respect for each other, so they respected a good rivalry. And yeah, this is the part where they're leaving the school, traveling under the tunnel to get more food, but a Sludge villain would appear and would be on some predator stuff saying, "Give me your bodies." Bakugo in the back of his mind would be questioning if he should just leave Deku and his brother to handle this, because he not in the mood to get, his butt touched or anything. He not in that mood. And Deku would just pop out with that non-copyright strange no jutsu and make 5 perfect copies of himself that rushed at the Sludge villain, and his brother would decide to help out, increasing the gravity on the Sludge villain. And Bakugo manning up would send an AP shot, much stronger than in the original, and would send it at the Sludge villain, literally knocking it back into the wall. Deku would order his string puppets to hunt him down when the Sludge villain escaped into the sewers, and the string puppets would rush in after them. This would go on for about 10 minutes, and the Sludge villain would see All Might and start weighing his options. Deal with All Might or get jumped by 3 string puppets. Wait, it's 5, right? Oh shit. I'll do it. All Might. He'll give you a chance. But dang, Deku, I don't know about Deku. Crap. And the choice was pretty easy at this point. The Sludge villain chose the goddamn All Might, cause same would I. Like, who would you choose? 5 razor sharp puppets that can literally cut you in half. I don't care if you're Sludge. They can still kill you, bro. Or would you choose All Might, the so-called hero that will, save your life if you turn over a new leaf? Alright, back to the story. I'm ranting on. All Might would look at the Sludge villain and say, "What are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be running away?" But the Sludge villain would tell him, help me, I'm being jumped." And he would hide behind All Might. And All Might would see 5 Dekus, but he doesn't know it's Deku. And it would say, "This must be some weird stuff." And send a destroy smash, making the puppets disappear. But then the puppets would pull themselves back together, and they would start, throwing hands with All Might. All Might would be trying to keep his distance, because anytime he would touch the puppets, he would get a cut. And let's just say, if he punched hard and connected, his hand would legitimately get cut off. The villain seeing this would say, "Nope, I'd rather go to jail than deal with this." He would, go on some pacifistic stuff and turn over a new leaf, going to the police station to turn himself in. All Might's fight would have lasted on for about 2 hours without end. And All Might would even turn into Small Might. And right before All Might would legitimately get cut by the string puppet, Deku turned off his power, thinking that the puppets did their job. And the 3 boys would have decided to attend UA as in the original. I don't want to change that part. Bakugo would tell them that they should train a little bit more for the UA entrance exams, even though he thinks they're gonna pass. And that's what they would have done for the next 10 months. Deku and his brother having the sole purpose of tracking down the villains. And that's it. Bakugo just being able to make his explosions bigger and faster. Deku able to stretch his strings all around him, and what can he do now? He can stitch his wounds together, and Deku's brother expanding his range on his telepathic quirk. Deku and Bakugo and the brother were in front of the gate of the practical exam, seeing that they already faced the written exam and they're ready to see what was before them. They saw the door open, and wait, before I go on, they were all placed inside the same unit, so things are about to get good. Once they saw the door open a little bit, they would charge in with some kids saying that they were cheating, but President Mike would say that there were no countdowns in a real fight, and he yelled at them to follow the kids. Deku charged at the 2 3-pointers and shoot strings at them, destroying them immediately. Bakugo had just exploded 3 2-pointers, and Deku's brother was destroying 3-pointers as well, just 2 of them, by making gravity on them, increasing them, crushing them. Bakugo would yell, "I wouldn't let you beat me," as he charged at some of the robots, and Deku and his brother were doing the same thing as they ran into robots, destroying them. Deku was destroying multiple robots in seconds, giving him multiple points. Bakugo, seeing this, would get angry. "Okay," Bakugo would yell, as he launched an explosion at Deku, and he would yell, "I won't be outdone," as he charged at Deku with the explosion in his hands. Deku was not fazed by this. He knew this was gonna happen. Before they have all mentioned this, they all said, "We're not gonna go easy on each other." Deku also charged at Bakugo, and Bakugo would connect with a huge explosion and shot at Deku. Deku dived, and the shot that Bakugo had swung and dodged it and used a string to slice his Bakugo's cheek. This only angered Bakugo even more, as he yelled, "Damn you, Deku," as he charged with an explosion and yelled, "I will be number 1." Deku dodged the explosion as he made more strings to shoot at Bakugo, making a net that was hard as steel and could cut really easily, and Bakugo would know this but wouldn't care. Bakugo would get even more angry and yell, "I will win, Deku," as he broke out the net, cutting himself, but he would send an explosion that sting Deku's hair and also his clothes. Deku got angry at Bakugo and said it's time to get serious, as Deku shot a string at Bakugo, who barely dodged it, but the string cut the building behind Deku in half as it fell towards Bakugo's direction. He would blast at it with an explosion and exploded, and this left Deku a little bit of shock. "Power," he said. "Damn you, Deku," Bakugo would yell. "I will win, I have to." Deku's brother heard all this commotion and the explosions and ran to see him and Deku fighting. He tried to use his quirk to stop them, but right before he could, a string and an explosion went towards him. And this was an accident on Deku and Bakugo's part, but Deku's brother got a little bit pissed and started to make rubble the size of cars from the buildings Deku had destroyed and float them, attacking Deku and Bakugo. Bakugo would dodge some of this, but would still get hit, mostly hurting his leg, and Deku would just keep shooting strings and make the buildings cut in half, or the boulders, and they were as light, like as thin as paper to him, due to the Ito no Mi. Deku's brother would still be launching rubble at them, and with Deku dodging pretty easily, and Eraserhead would see this, and he would use his quirk to stop Bakugo and Deku's brother from using their quirks, but for some reason it did not work out on Deku, who had just sent a barrage of strings at both of them. All Might would have yelled Texas Smash, and the strings would get pushed back. Deku's brother barely dodging this, and Eraserhead would have stopped the strings and looked around, and realizing that they destroyed over 30 0-pointers and many buildings, also destroyed 400 different robots and gained a lot of points. And this is where I end it off for now. If you guys really want another part, I'm gonna make it hard for y'all. 60 likes. Yes, yes, yes. That's a big like goal. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.